All right. So, once again, welcome to our Subcontracting 101. This is the basics of readiness. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be breaking this down into three parts. A three-part training, the first of which where we're talking about readiness and capacity or capability, building small businesses or mid-sized businesses in the area of capacity. And capacity has a bunch of different, it's nuanced. So it has a bunch of different meanings. And we want to make sure that we clarify that today for you when the question is asked to you, are you ready? Are you capable? Do you have the capacity to be able to perform on these contracts? Do you have what it takes to be able to perform? So we want to make sure that you are clear on all of the things that apply to subcontracting in that space. So today I'm going to be talking to Mr. Elmer Rhodes. And Elmer, I am going to pass it over to you in a moment, but I do want you to go ahead and introduce yourself, your business, and briefly describe for us, if you don't mind, the type of contracting work that you're currently completing, or maybe some stuff that you've completed in the past, just to kind of give our audience a little bit of insight into who you are and what you do. Anyway, thank you for being here. Let me go ahead and say that. I apologize for not properly welcoming you to the to the platform, but thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate you sharing your time with us today.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ball. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elmer Rhodes. I am the owner and president of Crossroads Printing Technologies. And our specialty is large format environmental graphics is where we started out. We are now um, migrating into the actual wayfinding, directional signage, and the wall covering. So I am a vendor that was once considered professional services for my general contractor and architect client to now where we're actually boots on the ground. And I will kind of get into that later, but that's what we do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for introducing yourself for us. And you all, just to remind you, if you do have any questions, feel free to jot them down. Probably about midway into our talk, I'm going to ask if there are any questions. And if you do want to come off of mute and personally ask your question, that's totally fine. If you're not, if you don't want to ask your questions openly, you are more than welcome to add those to the chat, and we'll make sure that those questions are answered. So our goal is to make sure that everyone who has a question today and everyone who poses a question today actually gets their question answered today. So Elmer, what made you decide to transition into subcontracting at the local government?
Um, that's a good question. So I've been doing this since 2009 so far as owning my own business. Crossroads, we opened up in 2009. I've been working in the industry for over 35 years, but worked for some very large firms and just became a time where it was time for me to do it on my own. We started out as a regular blueprinter. Some of you are familiar with that type of service. We started out providing blueprinting services. Then we migrated into site signage, which we would do all the safety signs and everything for the general contractors on site. And then I'll say now from 2009 to 2000, literally 24, we started the fourth quarter of last year, where we finally had everything in place, at least I felt, to where now we were ready to take on the ultimate, which was the ultimate goal, was to do signage, wayfinding, and wall covering. And what made us migrate into that, it was just a natural evolution, if that makes sense, Doc. Right? We wanted to start here, but this is where we really wanted to go. But in order to do that, we needed to first build our relationships with our general contractors first and our architect clients. Once I had those relationships in place and then eventually got the equipment and everything else, it's an easier sell for me because now I feel like there's a job going on with Jajama that we were able to sit down and have a conversation with them about not bidding it, but having them requesting them to break it out into a package for me to bid. Without those relationships, that wouldn't have happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely jump into those relationships and that the process of all of that because I am with you. I believe that relationship building is prime in terms of like anything that you want to do. But sometimes I think people are confused, or maybe they're not fully aware, understanding how those relationships are built and what that looks like. So we'll kind of transition into that in a few minutes. But with the question that I asked you in terms of like what made you decide to transition into subcontracting at the level, how did you know you were ready? Or were you ready? Because I know that local government or government in and of itself wasn't your first go-to. That really never is anybody's go-to, and I hope it never is anybody's go-to. It should always be like maybe the last go-to because it's like such a big pot. So I know that there were things that you might have done prior to going into local government or getting into the government space. But how did you like, what was it that let you know that you were ready? This is a move we need to make going into local government, or were you even ready? Did you have to do something to get ready?
So yes, so and I'm sure everyone else on this call will probably be able to agree with this. Since I'm on the professional service side, it is hard to get the prime to have their participation, whatever those requirements may be, right? So you've always kind of struggled to get on someone's team, and I'm a hardcore person about not just making a phone call trying to get on your radar. I literally go knock on your door, ask for that person and get a sit down meeting with them. But as long as I've been doing that, that has been the hardest way. So my approach was, okay, I'm going to go out and do all these private jobs and build myself up to where I'm a prime. And now when I go bid on these jobs with the government agency, I can either now joint venture, right, with that used to be a prime to me, or now they'll take me serious and either ask me to be the prime because of my veteran status or my MB status. And now my capacity brings more to the table than they do because I built it up over the years. So I kind of built up my network, I'm going to say, for lack of a better word, on smaller private jobs. Some of those private jobs, I deal with Bass Pro Shop all over the country. We do everything for them that's interior. So those jobs were bigger than my government jobs that I started getting. So when I went back to start doing government jobs, it's funny. We just got a job in San Antonio with Veterans Hospital because we're now working with the Veterans Affairs, and I had no experience in veteran hospitals, but I said, okay, I'll send you my link, and these are all private jobs. If you look at these jobs and you tell me we're not qualified, okay, then I'm eliminated, right? Nope, they responded back within 5 minutes. Nope, you're good to go. So even those jobs just got me on this job, and we end up winning that bid down in San Antonio. So it's going out. I use the private market as a way for me to get into and build up my network to deal with the government, because now I feel like, okay, you don't want to break off any of it or make me a sub underneath you. Now I feel like I'm in a position where I could prime. Although I don't mind being a sub, I would rather do that. But I felt I had to build myself up because that's just been such a hard sell to get professional services to take. I'm going to say the go serious,
Mm-hmm.
So that's always kind of tough, but it's been a lot easier for us now.
So I'm glad that you mentioned like your private sector projects, because that was going to be the next thing that I kind of segued into, which was what type of preliminary projects was your company working on prior to? So, like, for instance, now you're kind of working in the bigger spaces. Would you say that the projects that you work on now in the bigger spaces align with some of the smaller projects, or were they kind of completely different and you made yourself available to really do anything you could to build up that performance capacity?
I did anything I could to build up the performance capacity. So for me, I'm real big on back office. When I started the company, I can't be everywhere and do everything at one time. So I gambled on myself. I think the people attending this can attest to this as well. Going out and get funding from a bank and all this and that to rev up is not as easy for us as it is for others. So you got to be willing to gamble on yourself and, co-sign, be the co-signer on a lot of those loans to get the funding to do what you want to do. And I know that scares some people away, but I was one of the knuckleheads that didn't get scared away, and I co-signed on that loan, on that funding. But it worked out. I was able to get what I call the right equipment to allow me to do the work so I can go out and get the right staff and not be staff heavy because I wasn't equipped right and it was costing me more. So I put the money into the best equipment that I can get and went out and found the right people to bring on and trained them up. I used a lot of in some areas, we used a lot of the workforce programs that they had,
Mm-hmm.
because this equipment, it's not hard to teach nobody that. And we're
Mm-hmm.
able to teach them and get them in the market. Once we got there and got the equipment, we started out doing small jobs. I started out doing safety signs. Let me do just your safety signs. That's just printing on corrugated plastic, like the yard signs you see in your yard, things like that. Well, construction used that on all their construction jobs and other substrates and retail markets, stores use that. So, I was driving to Ohio, calling on the retail market, calling on Macy's. They were our client, Carter's Baby Stores, and hit the street and got lucky. I'm going to say this and got an opportunity on small jobs, and they were fast turnaround. So they were testing me to see if I could turn it around, and we were working day and night and weekends to do whatever we could to make sure we were early on those deadlines, to be honest with you.
So I like what you said earlier when you said, I know when we spoke before, you said, I'm a salesman, I'm a salesperson. That's
Yes.
what I do first, right? And so I know having worked with a lot of businesses over the past, I'd say 7 or 8 years, just working with small businesses in various spaces, coaching, being working at assist agencies and working with other businesses, a lot of what I hear people say is I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. But a lot of what you do in business relies on you being a salesperson because you have to be able to sell yourself. So when you say that you would call, reach out to people, hit the pavement. I think when we spoke before, you talked about taking people out to lunch.
Lunch.
Going, you only needed 10 minutes, right? You didn't plan your entire day to spend like an hour with somebody because nobody has that kind of time, right? In
No.
your schedule, you said, I just need 10 minutes, and you would go and you would talk to these people for 10 minutes and made it a really powerful 10 minutes. So, can you talk a little bit about like the responsibility of the small business? If this is the space that they want to be in, if this is the type of success that they want to add to their bag of successfulness, they're going to have to become that type of person. Would you say?
I would say that. And you know what, Dr. Ball, I'm gonna tell you what got me there. So one of the services that we offer to construction companies since, oh my God, since they started doing it electronically, is offering the tool for them to send out their bids electronically. We would sell them that software. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I noticed when we were collecting all this data and putting their subcontractors in this tool for them to use and the software to use to send out their invitation to bid and their bid notices, is that all of them had a what we call a spec number, a specification code number, right? All of the non-minority firms were in their databases as a code number. So if they did painting, it was just that spec number in there. But when it came to women-owned, minority-owned companies, it was the name of their company, which said two things to me. They'll never get a job on jobs that don't require minority or women-owned opportunities. And until they understand what this specific code is and get to go meet that estimator to get into that group, they're really not taking them serious. So how do you get around that? The only time they really use that group, and we got it, we had it labeled in our as a group, as the MWBE group. So on certain bids, they would take that and send it out to everybody. Even I would get it because I did blueprinting. We were minority owned. Well, I'm not boots on the ground, so why am I getting this? So to me, that said a lot. So I'm like, okay, I got to get out of this group and get over here. How do I do that? I started calling on the estimators. I started knocking on every last one of their doors. And I didn't wait till a job came up. I got to know them before a job came up that had requirements on it. So when those jobs did come up, they would automatically call me and say, hey, Elmer, we got this coming up. We want to utilize you. It wasn't about pricing anymore. and then we would sit down and negotiate. So same thing kind of happened with this. Now that we are a trade number, because we're boots on the ground, if we're installing or anything like that, same thing. I know those estimators. So I have a relationship with them. So I don't have to worry about the project manager. I already know about the job months before it hit the street because I have a relationship with that estimator. So I'm real big on lunch and learns. We do that a lot when it's not busy, especially in the slow season. To me, Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve, I'm on the street. I am not in my office. You're not going to catch me in my office. I got a list, and before January hit, I want to be in with every last one of those guys. I did the same thing with all three casinos here, the one in Waukegan, Bally's, and Wind Creek, and I got all three. But I pounded them all the way down to Mississippi. Whatchamacallit is up in Philadelphia, and Bally's out of Vegas, and I got them all three. So
This is very interesting because what type of pre-planning work do you have to do to know what you want to do? And I think that that's important for our vendor community to understand also is that you have to have a plan of what you want to do because you said I did that with all three of the casinos. You've done this with other companies. So that tells me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that tells me that you had a plan of what you knew you wanted to do, the type of work that you wanted to do, the type of companies that you wanted to work with. You made a plan and you knew who you had to go after to build a relationship with. It wasn't just a knee-jerk response. You literally had a plan in your, whether it was on paper or in your head, you knew
exactly.
who you needed to work with and you knew that you needed to go out and connect with those people. Is
Yeah,
that true?
that is true, and it was not based on my company's certification status. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pursue any of them that way. Now, Gilbane did add me as a minority once they found out about me. I
Mm-hmm.
got called to them for the Bally's Casino, and they're utilizing it, but I did not approach it that way. Who's in charge? Who's making a call for the type of services that I offer? And can I start having a conversation with you now about unbundling that to help you meet your goals if that is the case, if it
Mm-hmm.
come up to that. But I try to have unbundling conversations on my own and not let that be something that the GC and the developer have in their outreach events.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already trying to be like 3 or 4 months ahead of that. And the only way
And
you're gonna do that is
I,
get
I like that. I like that strategy, Elmer, because if you think about like sports, players don't get good when season is hot. Players get good in the off season,
it's not
right?
what they see what you do when they see you is what you do
Right.
when they don't see you.
When they
And
don't
I
see
believe
you.
that.
And so that's the same, that's kind of equivalent to what you're talking about when you say that you don't wait until, and I think sometimes vendors, and it could be just an issue of not really knowing or understanding, but I think sometimes vendors and small businesses wait until an opportunity comes. And it's
It's too late.
essentially kind of too late,
It's too
right?
late. Yeah.
Right? Because now you're trying to get your capability statement right. You're trying to reach out to these people to have conversations with them. You're trying to do all this stuff that you actually should have done like before the opportunity came and put your plan together. And so I think that this is really great that you're sharing this because hopefully they're getting from this, whoever, if it's even if it's just one person, that they're getting from this that planning is very important and making sure that you understand who you want to work with. Look at those buying plans. Those buying plans come out really early. Look at those buying plans and see what's coming up and see who you can what aligns with the
You can
scope of
partner
work
with.
that you
That's
do
right. Yeah.
and then go out and try to have conversations with whoever you need to have conversations with,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So do you do most of your work in the prime in a from a prime position or from a sub position, or would you say a little bit of both? How do you break down your work?
A little bit of both. I make majority of our revenue come through sub. We do very little prime, especially in the government sector. But majority of our work come through as a sub because that's the only way we can be, right? And my private clients, Bass Pro and some of the others don't even have goals. So either they're working with you or they're not. Yeah, there is no goal setting or
Mhm.
things like that with them. So you're either earning their business or you're not.
Because that's private sector, right?
That's straight private.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
You got
private
no
sector.
goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the in the AEC market, we are 90% sub, and we try to be a first tier sub. And I try not to have any partners that I'm subbing work out to. I've got to that point. We work to get to that point, and I'm not outsourcing anything. We're doing it in house, or we're
Can
doing.
you explain? Okay, so can you explain to our attendees what a first tier sub is in case they
Yes.
don't know?
Okay. Anything that's directly under the GC, you would be considered a first tier sub. So we try to be that instead of what I call a third tier sub, which means I am a sub now to the first tier
To
sub,
another sub.
to
Okay.
another sub. I try to avoid that as much as I can. It was kind of hard in the beginning not to, but I was very picky in how we did that because a few times that I did do that, and it was by a contractor where they slow paid me to death. So, you learn the lessons of,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this contract language,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned that real fast. So, as a subcontractor, I try my best to be a first tier sub versus a second and third tier because, money trickles down slow, you know,
Yeah,
I don't want nobody getting interest off my money,
I
pay.
hear that. So we were talking yesterday about how I've had conversations with people who are just so enamored with the prime contracting space, right? Everybody wants to be a prime contractor, and I think it's just a lack of education. When they hear the word subcontractor, they don't feel like they're at the top of their game when they're subcontracting. And so I've had conversations with people in past who are in business or who are wanting to get in the government contracting space, and they'll
Mhm.
say stuff like, "Oh, I want to be a prime." And so, as I was speaking to you yesterday, I was like, "Well, let's break that down. Let's
Okay.
talk about what that is." So for anybody who's on the training today, and all you ever want to be is a prime, we're not gonna bust. We're not gonna, be like busting your bubble or anything like that, but we want to talk about that for a minute. So, giving you an example of a prime contractor, let's say that there's a contract out there for $25 million. These are big numbers that we're playing with, but it's gonna push the point. So let's say that there's a contract out there for $25 million, and Elmer and his company wants to be a prime on this company. Well, I mean on this project. And so this is where we get into the breakdown of capacity, right?
Mhm.
So we have human capacity, right, Elmer, which speaks to what? What is human capacity?
Your work, your staff, your
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 staff.
your guys out there and your ladies out there on the ground working that you got to pay. Absolutely.
Correct. Correct. So you got to have the human capacity. And then you have to have the financial capacity, which is probably going to stump everybody because they don't realize that when you're prime, you're responsible for essentially $25 million, right? I mean, essentially, if the contract is $25 million and you are a subcontractor, I'm sorry, a prime contractor on there, you're essentially responsible. You need to show that you have a financial capacity of $25 million, essentially, because the money is going to come from who? The prime contractor, right? When you're if you're paying out your subs, if you have to meet those, the MBE goals or whatever, WBE goals, VBE goals, whatever types of goals. And then you have this performance capacity, which means what?
You have to perform. Uh,
Right. You have to show that you have performed.
yeah. Doc, it's funny, right? Um, my business is a perfect example of why I still kind of love being when I was a professional service
Mm-hmm.
versus where now I am part of their pay app, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are contractors, you understand what I'm saying when I say this. Uh, Up until 2024, we were always a professional service. So if I submitted an invoice, I got paid in 30 days and I'm
Mm-hmm.
net 15. So if there was a $20,000 job that I did or invoice I just put in, I would get that within 15 days. So man, hey, my cash flow was great, right? Now kick me over to now, oh man, I want to go get in this lane. I want to do wayfinding. I want to do the signage, and the signage throughout the building. We want to do the wall wraps. Well, guess what they just did? Now they just made me part of the contract, and now I'm under that pay app, right? Which was all new to me, but I knew it
Mm-hmm.
was coming. So, which means two things, like you said, I still got payroll I got to make. Just because that GC included me on their pay app number 3, for an invoice of 40 grand, I may not see that 40 grand I found out for anywhere between up to 3 to sometimes 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
because that GC is waiting to get paid, right? Uh,
Right.
and when they do get paid, now I got to pressure them to get paid, and,
Right.
and a whole bit. That could take some time. So what I found out was my relationships with the banks end up being marquee, because I'm able now to float that payroll, anticipate not even seeing that pay app that I just put in. I don't even now look forward. I'll be honest with you, within a month. I automatically forecast that out. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
figure that out. And that's not even including the 10% retainage that I won't see until the job is damn near over with, right? Even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm done, but I'm like the painter. So
Right.
at the end, it's the painter and us in the building putting our wall covering and them painting. So we're dead last, right?
Right.
So those are things that I had to think about, that where I had it so easy on the professional service side,
Mm-hmm.
that now coming over where I got to wait to be paid. And that's exactly why I want nothing to do with a prime, because whether Cook County pay me or not, I
Mm-hmm.
got to make sure I don't put my subs out of business,
Mm-hmm.
because they can't pay their staff. And if they're in the union, that's even a higher rate. Now they got union dues and
Absolutely.
everything else. So I try to
So I'm
stay
glad you
ahead.
broke that down. That was perfect how you broke that down.
Yeah,
That's it. And that's what I want people to understand. We're not trying to say don't be a prime. If I mean your goal is to build yourself up to be a prime, but we're also letting you know what that risk factor looks like when you are. And there's nothing wrong with being a
no,
subcontractor. There are huge companies that still function as subcontractors, and they opt to function as subcontractors the entirety of their business days,
no, I
right?
just want to
They
be a
just opt to
big
do that
sub.
because it's a little bit easier.
Yep, yep. I just want to be a big first tier sub is what my goal is. I don't ever want to prime. I'll
I
stay
love
in
that.
my
Okay.
private. I'm good there, but public jobs, absolutely not. I don't want to be on the hook.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love that. So I'm going to stop real quick just to see if there are any questions from anyone. Does anyone have any questions? You can open up, come off of mute quickly to ask your question. If you want to ask it openly, feel free. And I'm
Hi.
looking through.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Ethan. I'm with Custom Crafters. I have a quick question. You're talking about kind of your plan and kind of who you're attacking, who you're going after. When you're talking to kind of like what kind of people are you going after? What kind of titles? What kind of people are you really looking for? I know there's so many different areas you can attack a project or attack a building or anything like that, but who are the main players that you're going after?
If you're in construction, you want to talk to the estimator,
Okay.
director, or the president of estimating, and they will let you come in and do lunch and learns. General contractors, man, I'll be honest with you, Power, McHugh, Walsh, I've done lunch and learns at every last one of them, and they were all open to it. And my main goal was to get my business on their radar at one time. And then after that, I started hitting everybody that I had signed in on that sign-in sheet, because they're either project managers or top tier estimators that know about these jobs. And I would hit them all up. And I'll be honest with you, and I would, man, they wouldn't go 2 months without hearing from me, or if I'm in the area stopping by. And believe it or not, they will come out the front desk and see you. They actually good people. They'll come out and see you. You just got to build a relationship with them. I have not had any of them be rude to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Any other questions? I know we have some in the chat. We'll get to those towards the end. Go
I
ahead.
have a question. This is Jalen. I have a question. Do you offer any mentor services, sir?
No, but what? Okay, so it's funny you say that. I am recently the veterans president for one of the associations here in the Chicagoland area, right? And I actually have a meeting with, and Dr. Butler, you may know Rich Martinez with Water Rec downtown. I actually have a meeting with him, although the company that I am representing to be their first tier hauling company is with Hacia. They're veteran. So for me, I don't care what association you with. You don't have to be where we're from. They were a veteran. I called Water Rec. They were looking for a first tier sub in a veteran space. So got with Jackie and called her. She gave me her guy, and I'm taking them down there on Thursday, and we're going to walk away with him with their first tier contract for Water Rec. So that's as far as I go. But I'm veterans first for the state, and kind of got away from the M&W because I am a vet. And now that they do have goals for veteran goals, thank you, Cook County. You're one of them. I've been hardcore pushing veterans and doing my best I can to get us on the radar.
Awesome.
Okay.
What's your service?
Army.
It never fails. I'm Air Force. I always tell people I always get totally eclipsed by the Army people. Whenever I get in an open forum and talk, it's always like a handful of me and just an entire room full of Army. But thank
Well,
you
that's
for
why you got that doctor in front of your name. We don't do that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. Finish up, Jalen. Sorry about that.
Jalen, were you finished?
I was just going to ask, is there a way that I can get in contact with you?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And Jalen, I think I saw somebody here that's in the crane business. Was that you, Ethan?
No, I'm in we're architectural millwork, so we're a millwork company.
Okay. All right. Now, Jalen, for you, because the business that we're in, I've been able to leverage that, right? So I've got buddies here that Penn Services. I introduced him into St. Louis, and he's a steel erection company. He's doing very well. We've now just taken Matt Construction, who also does trains, and they do concrete, and really took them around and introduced them to every estimator that because I have an office in St. Louis as well that I knew, and they're booming down there. It's just the estimators are the way in, man. I'll be honest with you.
Well, you guys, Elmer's going to give his contact information or whatever information he wants to share towards the end. He's definitely he told me he doesn't have a problem sharing anything. So if anybody wants to reach out to him, I'm sure he'll be okay with that. So we're just going to go ahead and finish up the last couple of talking points that I have, and then we can answer some more questions before we get finished. But Elmer, I wanted to ask you if you have, and you've already given a ton of tips already since we've been talking. So, whatever we may have already kind of dabbled in this a little bit. But do you have, since we are talking about readiness, and for all of the people who came on our training after we got started, we're basically talking. This is a 3-part series that we're presenting. So it's Subcontracting 101, part 1, 2, and 3. So this is part 1 where we're actually talking to a prime slash subcontractor who is extremely successful in his space, has a wealth of knowledge to be able to talk about readiness and capability. And so what I want Elmer to talk about now, if you can, is some readiness tips. So let's just assume that we have vendors on here that are in at every level possible, right? So we have startup people, we have people who just got certified, we have people who've been doing this for a few years, and we have people who've been, they're mid, intermediate. What are some readiness tips that you can think about giving someone here if you were, let's say, mentoring somebody? What's some readiness tips that you would give them to kind of push them across the line to be in position to do some subcontracting rather quickly?
Oh man, that's a good question. Obviously, staffing, no matter how that looks to you, I know for us, production staffing is very important for us in order to perform the job in a timely manner. Right, I'm military, so right? We don't like to be seen, you're going to feel us, right? So, but we don't want you to see us. And I take that model with work. Um, as a vendor, when we get the job, uh, are we ready enough so far as people, equipment, financing, right? And I'm real big on that. If I run into a situation with my supplier and that relationship is not in place to where I can get what I need when I need it in case an emergency occurs, obviously we were not ready, so my vendor didn't take me seriously enough to where I was one of their top tier customers. So, and I'm real big on, and some of you all can relate to this, they tend to treat us a little different um, than the non-diverse firms when it come to the way they do business with us. And I'm real big on demanding that if I'm meeting your payment terms, and I don't mean unrealistic payment terms, and I'm spending a certain amount of money with you, I will demand a level of service from you, or I will go to your competitor. And I'm real big on speaking up upfront about that instead of waiting, because I need to know who am I dealing with as a vendor. I don't want to get in a trick bag, because if you don't come through for me, the customer's not going to want to hear that. All they know is Crossroads. I wouldn't use them because they got issues, right? We're all diverse, so every little thing counts. Financing. I'm real big with even taking my banker out to lunch. I'll be honest with you. During the holiday, I get my banker. I get her. She's a cigar smoker. I make sure I get her cigars from Ralph's, and the whole bit down on Taylor every year. Merry Christmas, the whole bit, because you never know. We were awarded a job with Edward Jones, right? And this is the first time Edward Jones ever split out their technology contract, right? In signage, we also do digital screens, right? We do a lot of that with the casinos. Well, Edward Jones found out about me through somebody on their board, and they wanted to split out some of the work to veterans. So they use worldwide technology. They do a couple of billion a year with them, right? And they wanted to split off 3% of that and give it to me. They took us through so much security risk, this, that, and that, that we were able to pass easy. But you know what the biggest challenge I had? And thank God I had a relationship with the bank. The first order from them would have been too big for me to buy from my vendor, right? Which I use Cinex. They're based out of North Carolina. They're the largest HP dealer in the country. They would have bought so much devices that it was not even close. We're talking 500 grand, right? That I would have had to pay that up front, right? Or give up points. Cinex was like, okay, Elmer, we'll work out a program with you, but you're going to give us points back. And that invoice is going to be in both of our names, right? Worst case, not a bad deal. But I'm like, no, I'm not giving you anything. Let me call the bank. Called the bank, took the contract opportunity to them, had Edward Jones back me up that they will fulfill this, and was able to get the money from the bank in order to take care of the first order, right? Because Edward Jones don't pay until 120 days, and they make that up front to all vendors. That would put me out of business. Good business, but if I couldn't have got the deal from the bank, I wouldn't have took it. And if I'd have took the points from Cinex, I'd have been making pennies on it. It's not worth my time. Right? So you can't get caught up in, man, that's a great contract. That's a great opportunity. Well, not really. Right? So to me, that's part of readiness. That either I was going to get the money from the bank or I wasn't going to do it. And that's still a part of readiness, because great opportunity would have been, but no, my type of readiness is not ready for that. I'd have been gambling too much with that and giving up too much. I'd have been basically working for Cinex, versus the other way around. So thank God the bank came through. So when you talk about readiness, really look at it, not just your staff, but your financial situation, because that come into play. And not all deals are good deals, because be prepared. Are you ready for that bad deal that could put you out of business? It may look good because the $500,000 sale, but what are you walking away with? If I'm only making $20,000 off that $500,000 sale, then I got to go pay taxes. I just lost money.
Mm.
So it's really not a good deal. So,
Wow.
right, prepared to walk away from it. So, when you say readiness, I just say be prepared to, ladies, and evaluate everything. That's all I got to say. Sleep on it. I'm real big on sleeping on it and waking up the next day and like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm not big on making emotional decisions, military thing. I want to process it, and then I'll have a plan in the morning or over the weekend. Let me think on it. And sometimes I do come back and say, no, we'll pass. And then sometimes they'll come back and say, well, we really want you on this job. What do we have to do? Because they're surprised I walked away.
And now the open dialogue starts.
Honest dialogue, I'm going to say, Dr. Butler. Right now it's
Yeah.
honest because
Yeah.
I know you got money. I was on the professional service side with you. I've seen those bids go out. So because I do have that intel of, now, yeah, I'm pursuing your work, but I saw your database. So I know who you're using. So come on now, let's sit down and have a real conversation.
That's good. And so I think what I'm hearing you say, which is so incredibly valuable, is readiness requires you to know your business. It requires you to know everything about your business, not just whether or not you can do the work. Because I think for a lot of people, readiness translates over to them that I can do this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, this scope of work fits what I do. And readiness involves so much more. And I just love what you just said in your story, just about judging and figuring out what's a good deal versus what's not a good deal, or being okay with the risk of telling somebody no. And then they come back and be like, but we really want you. Okay, let's talk for real.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm
You
also
have to
ready to
be
say
so
no.
confident. You have to be
Yes.
confident enough in yourself and your ability and your knowledge to know what risk to take. So I think that that's incredibly valuable. Thank you so much for those tips. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, and I think we already hit this, so if we did, no problem. But I was going to ask you about a strategy that a company can use to improve their capacity, whether that be a financial strategy, a human capital strategy, or a performance strategy. Is there anything outside of what we've already discussed that you would say they probably want to think about incorporating when it comes to improving their capacity or their capability or even their readiness?
Yes. So each quarter, I evaluate the business, and that's every lane of it is what I do. I break everything down in QuickBooks, and so that way, when I go pull reports, it is giving me exactly what I want to see, good or bad, right? Because I need to know, right? So that readiness let me know, or and even go ahead. I'm sorry, Chrissy.
No. Somebody's off the Cresty is out. There it is.
Okay.
She's good.
Okay. Even the software that we use to track all of our equipment, right? I know I can go back and look at our peak seasons in 2023. I can go and look when we were heavy, were we staffed right for that, or were we overstaffed for that, right? Did we have to go get a loan, which is going to show for the line of credit that Edward Jones will stand out? Yes, it will. And why do we have to go get it? I do that financially. I do that with our people. Do we have the right amount of people? Do we have the right people, working for us? Do we have and the right equipment? We wanted to get into what we're finally doing now. Yes, equipment wise, we got the flatbeds. We could print on anything. We got the wall covering printers. We got that. Only thing that I would say we are missing, which I found that partner, because you're starting to see that come back, is the union aspect of it, right? So what did I do? I went out and talked to some union shops in town and wanted to make sure I had a good fit with the right one. And I found my fit. We're teaming with the guy off of Western, on jobs that we both can go after government contracts, to get union seal, and veteran. So we're going to create a joint venture. So when those jobs do come up, we're already in play. We're not going to wait for the project to come out. It's already going to be there. So it'll just be sitting and waiting for us to bid that opportunity. So that way it works for both of us, because there's work that they can't get and there's work that I can't get, but it makes sense if we create a joint venture and win that of it together. So convincing some people that partners may be the best way can be tough at times, but the ones that do get it, like the guy on Western, him and his daughter got it, and it was a good fit. So I am ramping up, and Dr. Butler, my goal was, and that's why I think we were perfect for today. 90% of our work was black and white, and by the end of this year, I got to flip it to where 80% of our income came from signage, wayfinding, the whole bit. So we're in a hardcore push to flip that number, and that's going to set this company up to be successful for, the next 30 years. Because between here and working in Vegas and Baltimore, St. Louis, down south, that is a good footmark for us. And we are in Dallas and Texas as well, working. So we need to flip that, so and that's our big push right now. So even today, before this call, I was on the street cold calling, seeing people, letting them know and taking them our book, our Swatch book, that we're doing this work now. I want to get on your radar. How can I come in and do a lunch and learn and meet with your team and the whole bit and introduce us? So when opportunities come up, you think about us, but you think about us in a serious capacity because, hey, I put food in your stomach, right? So you remember that, that'll ring. Hey, let's give that guy a call. So I'm real big on that.
The one thing I remember you saying earlier in the talk was it took you about 15 years to get yourself to where you are. Like you said on purpose, from 2009 to now, that's how long you took purposely to plan and to build yourself up. And I thought when I heard you say that, I thought how incredible, like beneficial that is for people to hear that. Like nothing happens fast, and you have to be super intentional about what your plan looks like. And I just keep going back to the word plan because I think that a lot of businesses fail to do that well. They fail to plan, even down to the type of companies that they want to work for. Who do you want to work with? What do you want to do? Right? Do you have a clear understanding of the type of scope, the scope of work that you can do, and can you expand that if the need be? Right? So a lot of different things to consider. So before we go, I'm going to have one of our amazing staff members, Crystal. There's several questions in the chat. We have about 6 or 7 minutes. So Crystal, can you do me a favor and post some of the questions that were posted in the chat for us?
Yes. Okay, so one question we have from Hector Perez is, we're a crane company, tier 2 sub. How would you recommend us promoting ourselves and to who? Primer subs, and they're a veteran company as well.
Oh, you are that. If I was you, I'll be honest with you, and I'm actually going to throw names out there, right? If I was you, I would hit up contractors like Greg's, who's at GAC. I would also hit up Boa Construction. I would hit Ujama. I would hit Power. Those type of companies, and Pepper. They all got what I call great compliance people in place that will walk you in. So hit the GCs that first have an avenue that can help walk you in and introduce you and get you that lunch and learn, right? Because if you go in and present yourself as a crane company first, oh, we're just so happen to be veteran or minority, I would put that dead last. I always do. Because my big thing is that I don't want you to think of me only when you have jobs that require Cook County goals or City of Chicago goals or state goals. I want to be one of your primary go-tos on your private jobs. And those lunch and learns will give you that opportunity to do that. Because I'm telling you, if you only chasing goal work in any capacity, whether it's women, minority, veteran, none of us will be in business long. It's not enough of that going around. And we're all fighting for that. So think about that. So I'm real big on, I want 80% of your work. That's why I'm calling on you. I don't care if it's government or private, don't matter to me, 80%. I want to build a serious relationship with you. What would it take for me to get that? And the room will go quiet for a minute because you now just asked that question that they're already doing with a couple of people. They can make room for you too. And at least you walk out of there knowing exactly where you stand.
Very good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question from Lori Hilson is, what type of professional services did you provide early on?
So I provided blueprinting, anything that is that they put in general conditions. So we do blueprinting. We did construction trailers. We tricked those out with all the electronics and everything in those and the software. So that all fell on the general conditions, right? But what they did, right, over the years, it got me great relationships with the estimating department, the project managers, and all of that. I've been working with those guys for years. So when I decided to now come on the other side where I'm part of the pay app, getting to work and getting the conversation made it a little bit easier for me. So, I will be honest about that, right? But that took a long time to build. And now let me say this, down south, hey, I'm not in the room with people that look like me. I'm going to be very honest with you, and although they gave me a shot, some of me and those guys are really good friends today, but hey, I did not stay in those hotels after that meeting. I got out of town. Right?
Okay.
But at the end of the day, if you present your business like you belong, they can't do nothing but accept it.
Right.
Very good.
Okay, next question from Irene Rodriguez, who is in the dump truck business. She wanted to make sure she understood when you're a sub under a prime, you have to wait up to 3 to 4 months to get paid.
If I was you, I would plan that. In hauling, you may be able to get your payment a little bit quicker. Can you ask her if she ever worked under AJ Trucking?
Irene, maybe you can unmute yourself if you're still available.
And if she still is on here, I want to introduce her to AJ Trucking.
Okay, let's see. Irene, I just see she's still muted. Maybe she can put her contact information in the chat and you guys can touch base with each other after the meeting.
And he's a very large minority-owned hauling firm. I think he got over like 20-some trucks, and he does concrete. He is Walsh go-to, whether it's private or public.
Oh, she says she's in the dump. She says she's in dumping.
Yeah, dump truck business.
Yep. He'll help her.
Nice.
So I'll set her up with him.
Okay.
Wonderful.
We also have another one from Kuyang Baumgartner. How do you become a sub to a prime? Are you pitching the primes and how do you know who they are?
Yeah, I'm pitching the primes. So private example, if there's a job at Cook County, is financing, I do go to the first outreach, right? Because I want to see who are the general contractors or who are the primes showing up. I'll be honest, after that, I love Desiree, Dr. Butler, love you guys. I don't come to those anymore because now I'm hitting up every prime that was there. That's where I'm spending the rest of my time at, because to me, Cook County done already did their part, right? They set up a way for you to meet the primes in the network. Most of them really won't really talk to you in those events because they just overwhelmed with everybody hitting them. I simply say, hey, give me your card. I give them my card and I'm done. And I put them on my call list for Monday. And I am calling them Monday morning to set up a meeting to come in and meet with them one-on-one. That's always been my approach. That's how I've always done it. And that way, if they do bid, I try to be as part of their team. So that'd be my main goal, because Cook County already know about me.
Those meetings are so important, you all. That's something that what he said right there is like, that's worth the whole entire hour. Those meetings, those preliminary meetings that they have,
Mm-hmm.
don't push those to the curb. You
Nope.
need to be there because that's where you're going to be able to meet the people that you can start reaching out to and building. You don't. It's like it's an open door for you. You don't have to go and cold call anywhere. Like you can literally like meet those people there, and then like he said, he put them on his list to be able to reach out the next day. So thank you for that. Next
Yep.
one, we got time for maybe two or three more. We're gonna try to do it quickly.
Okay. The next one is from Oscar Medina, and it says, can you talk about navigating as a union versus non-union small business?
It's the same. I will say, I think if you're union, it gives you the upper hand because obviously they rather deal with the union, contractor and workforce first. So you got a card that none of us got, that a lot of us don't have, that you could play and take advantage of. But I would do the same exact thing so far as setting up lunch and learns. And man, I would have my union flag posted up as I'm sitting there speaking. You're the top of the heap with that one.
Nice. Okay, we have another question from Dwayne Carpenter. What is the best way to research what types of jobs subs have received to see if your business can meet some of these needs in the future?
That's a good point. Uh, I actually researched how many signage, how many wayfinding uh, companies were out here in Chicagoland that were certified veteran. And when I saw none, I knew then I need to escalate my plan up to 2024. And the minute we did that and start making calls and setting up lunch and learns, the doors open wide open. So that is a valid point. If I were you, whatever business you are in, hit the city's database, hit Cook County's database, and see who you are competing with. I do that whether they're veteran or not. Or I want to know who am I competing with in the state. And I do a lot of I want to say, for lack of a better word, Dr. Butler, sunshine. So I know I did that with the tollway contract. I wanted to bid on that contract, and I knew a company had it that got a great relationship in town. So I went and asked for a copy of that contract. And I knew the first time I bidded it, I would bid it. Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, that's Christy. They keep coming off of mute on
Okay.
accident.
And I knew the first time that I would bid it, I would not win it. But I knew that the winning company would teach me how to bid it. And the next time we came out, I won it. It's just a process, right? So I wasn't too concerned about winning it the first time. I wanted to see where these numbers were going to land and make sure that the next time it come out, that we were in a position to be profitable if we were to bid that number, right? So I didn't want to give all my eggs away and then pray to God I make money. I wanted to see and push and see how far I can push them, and then see what happened. And it worked out just like we thought.
Okay. Do we have room for any more questions?
Oh, we got a couple more.
Okay. So this is from Latoya Galladay. I am a MWBE, but not a veteran. I am certified in facilities and educational training. Can I sub for other construction companies? I'm not sure if that will go to you.
She can. She can open up and be a CM. I do. I do work with companies that do that, and they will break off a piece of that contract with you. But you have to build some really good relationships to do that. And but that is an option because they will create a joint venture with you. But if I was you, I would start hitting the diversity people now, introducing yourself and having them walk you to the right project manager with the right job to get an opportunity.
Okay, and I just wanted to let you know, Irene did post her contact information, and so did a few other people.
Okay.
I'll make
And
sure
I
I send
posted
out.
mine
I'm
as
gonna send
well.
out the chat. When I do a follow-up email, I'll make sure that I attach the chat to it so everybody here will have access to the chat.
Yeah. And then
Nice.
Dr. Butler, someone asked about how do you get a hold of a contract? I guess they didn't know that.
Yeah,
Bumgardner.
yeah. So contracts are all public knowledge. Is Janetta still on here or Desiree?
Let's
Yes,
see.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hey, Janetta.
Yeah.
Can you? So contracts are they're public knowledge. Anybody can get access
Once,
to it, correct?
once the contract is awarded, yes, it becomes public knowledge. They should be registered either in Bonfire, and if they're registered, once that contract is awarded, they do post the award information and all of the subsequent bidders as well, in Bonfire. But you need to be registered in order to access that information.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And I'll make sure that I put the link. If no one in here is registered in Bonfire, our procurement Bonfire, or any, we're just talking about Cook County, but I'll make sure that that link is in the follow-up email, and you definitely want to register for that because that's how you know what RFPs or what announcements, procurement announcements are coming out. Do we have any other questions, Crystal?
Yes, one more is, can you please describe how you value JV as it is a whole new business model versus your own business?
So for now, I use it a lot now with my veteran because I am a veteran with DOD. So we work with, and these contractors are not here. We're doing the National Geospace project, and we do a lot of the, like I was saying, the veteran hospitals. So I created a joint venture down in Dallas, Texas, with a firm like mine, and that worked out really well because that expanded my footprint into a market without putting a lot of cost into it. Well, anytime there's a new National Geospace center being built, if I can't perform the services from here and ship, and they most likely will not allow that because those documents are secured by the Department of Defense, so no one can see them outside of the people that work here. I normally create a joint venture to make sure that the documents stay secure. So for me, it's a little bit different, but that's a clearance that I had to go through, and it took me forever to get that clearance with the Department of Defense. So those joint ventures, yes, do come in hand. The one that I'm going to do with Breaker Press down on Western, we're doing a joint venture, and that is to go at the state of Illinois contracts. They are union. I am veteran. It makes sense.
Okay, and I didn't want to forget over Quintella Wolf, but she asked if you have any room for cleaning businesses.
I think it's cleaning and debris.
Yeah,
Right.
cleaning and debris. Mm-hmm.
Yes, she should be doing. Is she certified?
Not
You
sure.
certified, Quintella?
You can unmute yourself. If you're still here.
Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I am certified.
So you do
Can you hear
construction
me?
cleanup at the end, debris removal, and janitorial.
Yes, I can do. Yes, we do commercial as well as pre and post cleaning.
You do the porta potties and a whole bit.
I haven't did that part, but yes, we have did with the clean out.
You need to add that to your scope, and if you can get a hold of the dumpsters, and you should hit every GC in town. You should
Okay.
hit them all for the job sites. You're
Okay.
certified, and if you're certified, hey, now that's
Yes.
a question though, Janetta, Dr. Butler, would that count towards their goals?
It depends on if those are scopes of services that the solicitation are asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we can add those if we are thin in finding opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
We could possibly present that if there is availability for that, but it would also need to be something that the user department is looking for in that particular scope of services, in that solicitation.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this, Ms. Wolf, you're sitting on a possibility. I would take what Ms. Cardine just said and push with the county and the city and see what I could do about getting that added. I don't think you're going to have a lot of competition, and start
Okay.
hitting the GCs up.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, y'all. This has been so great. And I just love all of the connections that people are making in the chat and people opening their mouth and asking if they could be a sub. Like, closed mouths don't get fed.
No.
So
Dr.
thank you
Butler, if I
all.
could jump in real quick.
Sure.
I just want to thank Elmer. He was such a wealth of knowledge. He really
Yes.
helped our subcontractors to understand not just capable, but able. That is so critical, because just because you may be able to do it, you may not have the capacity to do it. When he talked about the banking component, don't be so excited to be on a contract that you can't fulfill it. We want to make sure that you can perform. And so I love that he gave that caveat. But also, Elmer, can you also share, when you talk about lunch and learns, share with them what that really looks like? Because how long is a lunch and learn? When you say you don't have your whole day, are you able to do that in 15 minutes to do a pitch and explain to the GCs who you are and what can you do? Because they don't have a lot of time to talk to you if they talk to you.
No, they do not. And it literally means their lunch, right? That means you bringing in lunch and you're meeting with them. Now, I will say this. You got up to 45 minutes to present your company. If all you're able to do is present your company and not turn it into a conversation, it probably didn't go well, right? But if you could get them talking, because they normally do now, let down their guard. Because number one, they're in their home, they're comfortable. You know, hey, they're eating lunch, and you're trying to turn into a conversation as quick as possible, not just a presentation, right? You want to go over and you need some what I call setup questions, right? Where hey, we're setting little claymine bombs up to where I'm expecting a response back. And that is now going to trigger an opportunity. That is going to trigger them to start thinking about how they can utilize you. Even though they may have somebody that they're utilizing, yeah, okay, you can bring this value to us. So I say this, make sure you bring a good lunch where they're going to sit down, enjoy it, listen to you, but also ask questions. Make sure you bring or you have everything. I'm real big in making sure my website covers everything I need. So I'm not carrying a lot of stuff, in the meeting, and all I'm carrying is a leave behind. But outside of that, our website is dynamic enough to show them everything that we do, even our referrals, we post those, that we got recommendations. So that way they see everything. And that way it's a real easy a presentation to go through. And I never leave the room without asking, do you see any opportunities you have coming up that where we could be considered? I mean, hey, I like to shock the room and let them get quiet.
I was gonna say you should never leave without asking that question, huh?
Right. But you'd be surprised, Dr. Buller. Some people do. Right.
Yeah.
Don't get nervous because you're in the room. Man, they're just people. Just like you. They're just people. Don't overthink it.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Did Desiree, thank you, Janetta, for bringing that up. Desiree, did you have anything to add as we get ready to close? I don't know if she's still on here. She might have jumped off. But
Can
anyway,
I ask one quick question? Elmer, you said you
sure.
belong.
Yes, sir.
You said you belong to a veteran organization here in Chicago. What is the name of that company, and can we join?
You know what, Mr. Perez? Yes, you can. So I've been a board member with USMCA, United States Minority Contractor Association, for now 10 years. But we started a veterans division. I'm gonna be honest with you, about 5 years ago. And all veterans, I don't care what branch you belong to. I'm real big on, if you're not a veteran, you can't tell me how to go get veteran work. I'm sorry. That just don't work for me. And even I love my association, but even they had people, there was a president and all this and that didn't understand anything about veteran businesses or going out to get SAM registered and other things that apply to a veteran business. And so I didn't participate. I just went out and said, you know what? I know how to go get work, veteran work. Let me go get it. They finally realized that and asked me to be the president this year. So I asked them, as long as I could do it my way, and I don't care what association these veterans are from, if they are a veteran, veteran first, period. So that's what we're doing. So when she shared the email with all of us, I'll reach back out to see who's all veteran. I know I got American Place Casino. We're having a veteran outreach. They brought me on board as a vendor, but then also asked me to help them with their veteran outreach. They're only looking for veteran businesses. So any of you all that's on this call that are veteran business, you need to go to American Place Casino. They are only looking for veterans, contractors, professional services, everything. That casino's out in Waukegan. And that's the same thing with Wind Creek, only veterans. So if you're a contractor, if you're this or that, and I'm sure Bally's gonna end up in the same situation where they got a veteran shortage. So
what's the goal on that, Elmer? Do you know what the percentage is?
I know with American Place, they got a 3% goal,
Okay.
but they broke it up, Ms. Cardine, where they got it broken up in each category. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right, not overall, and
Right.
they are dying.
Yeah, they have to fulfill it. So
Yes,
that's good knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people know that, but the casinos have jumped on board, especially here in Illinois, with the state, with this veteran thing. They are serious about it.
Awesome. So, Mr. Elmer, can you please put your information in the chat, because I'm going to make sure that everybody gets a copy of this chat when I give the follow-up email. And while he's doing that, you all, I just want to let you know this is recorded. So it's going to be, I'm going to upload everything tomorrow. We have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is actually at the top of this chat, but you'll also get in the follow-up email, you will get a link to the episode that we're doing today. And so you'll be able to have access to the recording of this particular webinar training, as well as the other webinar trainings that we do. We try to do at least 2 trainings per month. Sometimes we're able to do more, but we are definitely doing at least 2 trainings per month, and they are all recorded and they go on the YouTube channel. The part 2 to our Subcontracting 101 is going to be tentative for next month. And if you're on my email list, which everybody here probably is, because that's how you got the information to register for this, then you will definitely get notified when that registration goes live for you to do that. But having said that, thank you so much, Elmer. You are indeed a gem. I mean, this has been so amazing. I absolutely believe that everybody who attended today left with like an innumerable amount of practical steps to move forward. And then, as I mentioned, everybody here is connecting. People are dropping their contact information. And so you guys, this is what networking is all about. Just network. Don't be afraid to reach out. No. If there's one thing I got from Elmer today, that was, do not be afraid. You are selling yourself. This is your business. You got one chance.
Izzy, get a hold of me. Izzy Signs.
Izzy, he said, get a hold of him.
Please.
All right. So,
okay, I will.
All right. So did you put your information in the chat, Elmer?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
I don't see it. Is it in there?
It should be. Yeah, doctor. There it is right there. It's that ER.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right, you all. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Look for the email from me tomorrow.
Wait, I don't see the information.
You don't see
Elmer?
It's in there. Yeah, it's in there twice. Elmer Rhodes.
Does it say to everyone?
Yes.
In the chat?
Hold on. It says Easy Signs, all interior and exterior signage, sales at easysignschicago.com.
No,
perfect. Thank you.
Wait, we're talking about
I think they're talking about
wait,
me.
that's somebody else.
Yeah,
yes,
Mr. Rhodes.
Okay, nope. I see what you're saying. Everyone. There we go. I'm reposting.
Yeah, I think he didn't send it to everyone. It's gonna
there
come
it is. All right. Right about that. You're right. It was set to the direct.
All right, there it is. But I'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the chat. So no problem, no problem. Let me go ahead and so anyway, you guys, thank you so much for being here. We went over about 20 minutes, but it was a good go over. Okay. So thank you so much, Mr. Elmer Rhodes. We will be in touch, and maybe we'll bring you back for a part 2 of some sort. Yep. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Ball. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you all. You all have a wonderful rest of the day.
Everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.